You guys already know that I'm an analytical junkie. I love looking at statistics and I love looking at the numbers of where the market is going. It's just part of my personality, and that's something I want to share with you guys because I know a lot of you guys appreciate that as well. When it comes to the Utah real estate market, the thing you need to keep in mind is that it's not everything that it seems. You might be hearing some people say, hey, the market's going to crash. You hear other people saying, nah, the market's fine. Well, I think we're kind of somewhere in the middle, right? I don't think the market's totally fine. I don't think it's going to crash. I think we're just going to be at a spot where, things kind of stabilize and don't really see much activity over the next couple months until things really kind of get stabilized. And then I do think prices will continue to go up over the long term. Now, the information I'm going to share with you here in this video, we're going to jump into my computer here and take a look at this because this is really, really, really interesting information. So this is an email that I got today from the Salt Lake Board of Realtors, and this talks about the active listings in May and how they compare to 2021. So right here in the dark blue, you've got listings from last year, or is that black? I guess that's black. You've got listings from 2021 for the month of May. So May 1st, it was at 2,400, May 11th, 2,200, and then May 23rd, it was at 2,800, and then back down to 2,600. For 2022, we've actually got listings at 3,600 for the May 1st. It climbed to almost 4,000 by May 11th, and now it's at 5,000. So just over the last 2 weeks, we've added another 1,000 listings to the market. Now this is across all home types, all price ranges, basically just everything on the MLS. So that's a pretty crazy number to see that it's climbed this substantially, and now it's almost double what it was in 2021. But that doesn't tell the whole picture here. So let's jump over here and take a look at some of the stats here, because you might be looking at that thinking, well, hey, the market went up that much. If there's that many more active listings on the market, that means inventory is going up, which means there's more competition, which means prices have to come down. But that's not always the full story. Just because you see that the listing inventory is double what it was, right, doesn't necessarily mean anything unless you have some context to compare it to. So this is an important thing that I want to show you guys here. So this is the information, again, from the MLS, directly from there. It shows the number of sales that we had, the sales price. It gives you all this information, but it's broken up by the quarter. So this is actually a different report than we've looked at before. And the thing I want to point out here is you've got residential first quarter comparison. The reason we're using first quarter is because the second quarter is not quite out yet. We will take a look at the year-to-date chart just to get a sense of that. But the thing I want to point out here is in 2018, we had 14,111 listings on the market. That was new listings in quarter one. 2019, we were at 14,000. 2021, quarter one, right just before COVID hit, just before the world kind of went nuts, we were actually at 14,500. So inventory was actually up a little bit right there, but then it dropped substantially down to 12,000 in 2021 and 12,400 in 2022. So this is obviously not the second quarter data, so this doesn't include the month of May and what we're seeing here. But the thing I want to point out is that even though inventory has remained low for the last couple of years, I still only think that we're returning to the levels that we were expecting to see, or that we did see in 2018 and 2019, right? So if listings, we went from like 2,700 to almost 5,000, that's roughly 2,300 listings. If we take 2,300 and add it onto here, we get 14,700 listings. So I know that's not a perfect comparison, again, because this is quarter one. This does not include the month of May, but I still think that only returns us back to kind of that level where we were in 2018, 2019, where we're expecting to see roughly the same amount of listings year over year come to the market. So that's something that I found really interesting there. If we jump over here to the year to date, you can see that this is the same exact data. So in 2018, we had 24,948. 2019, 25,481, 2020, 24,408, and then 2021, 21,223, and then in 2022, we're still only at 22,500. So this is a 6% increase from last year, but we're still down substantially compared to 2018 and 2019. So this does kind of include that. I think this number will continue to climb, but the year-to-date active listings is still only, roughly what it was in 2018, 2019. The other thing that's pretty crazy here. 2018 prices were $320 for the median price. Today, $534,000. So that's pretty crazy to see that there. The last thing I want to look at is what's going on in the market here today. So this is information that I find really interesting. I generally don't like to look at this information until the month is closed out, but we're here on May 23rd at the time of this recording. You can see that the number of sales is down pretty substantially. So if we take 23 days, let's say that I think there's 30 days in May, right? So that means we're basically just over 3 weeks into the month. which is roughly 75%. So if we take another, 25% of this number and add it on, let's say that's going to be roughly 700 sales. That still only puts us at 32, maybe 3,300 sales by the month's end as a projection. So inventory and sales is going to be down substantially. That means a lot of people have fallen out of the market. They've canceled their contracts. They backed away, and this is going to be something that I think continues to actually stabilize the market over the long term, because if you have less sales happening, there's less volatility, but there's also less inventory, right? So people are not selling their houses, and unless everybody gets really motivated, I don't think that's going to cause a major crash or anything like that. Especially if we're looking at May, we should see increases here, generally at least, from going into these months. So let's go back to 2019 real quick. From April, let's go from March 2019 to May 2019, we went from 3,600 sales to 5,000 sales. Let's look at 2020. 2020 was a little bit, of a different year, right? Because that doesn't really count because of COVID. But we had in March 2020, 3,700 sales, May 2020, 4,000 sales. It actually dropped here because of, COVID and all that. So sales was still up 300 higher in May. Last year, a little bit different story, 3,900 sales to 4,100 in May. So we do expect, as we go into these spring months, we do expect for that inventory to increase, the number of sales to increase, but that's not what we're seeing here so far. So this may not be all inclusive. Like I said, I'm just adding 25% onto this number just as a rough estimate. Guys, really that only puts us at 3,500 sales at most, I think, for the month of May. So it'll be interesting to see how this turns out. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I'm going to cover this information as soon as we hit June. I'm going to be releasing a video about what's happened in May, what the final statistics say, and we're going to talk a little bit about how the market is actually shifting and what we're starting to see in the market. Because the thing about real estate is it's a very slow game. It takes months for these changes to really take effect. So although interest rates have been increasing over the last 2 to 3 months, we're just barely starting to see the effects of that on a more global scale, where we're looking at the median prices across the board and seeing some changes here. The interesting thing about this here, and I'll wrap this up, is that the median sales price to the median listing price is actually still above average, or above the list price, right? So homes are selling on average for 103% above their median original listing price. So the listing price across the board, 517,000. And again, this includes all home types, all areas. So there's no criteria on these numbers here, but we're seeing median list price of 517 and sales prices of 535,000. So that means on average so far, these people who probably made offers in April, towards the end of April, have offered somewhere between 3% on average above the asking price in order to get this house. So homes are still selling for above the list price when you look all across the board. Median days on market has not changed. That's this last column here. Everything is pretty much the same, guys. This is a really interesting time. I'm going to be keeping tabs on this, what's happening in the market week by week. It's really important to stay up to date on this information to kind of draw a conclusion, right? So like I said at the beginning of the video, I don't think we're going to see, a major crash. I don't think that we're going to see prices, continue to climb going into the future. I think this year is going to be a pretty quiet year. I think sales will stay kind of stable. I think prices will stay mostly stable, maybe come down 5 or 10%. But again, I just got to add this on here. Let's say that sales come down. Sale prices come down 10%. So I've talked about this before. The median sales price is at $535,000. Let's say we come down 10% off of that. So that's $53,500, right? So if we take off 53,000, let's say 50, that brings us back to $485 as a sales price. We saw that in January/February of this year, right? So January to February, it jumped up pretty significantly, but let's just say January, right? Let's say it's 11% that comes off. That still only takes us back to the pricing that we saw just 5 months ago. So 10% is not really that big of a drop. If you were looking at real estate last year, you were looking at prices that were significantly lower, almost $100,000 less in May of 2021 compared to May of this year. So this is really interesting information, guys. Like I said, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, consider sharing it with a friend or a family member who might also find value in this video. And as always, if you're thinking about buying, selling, or investing in real estate here in Utah, reach out to me. I absolutely love it when you guys reach out. I've had people from all across the world and right here in our own backyard reach out to me about their real estate needs, and I love hearing from you guys. So my information's here on the screen. Call, text, or email anytime. I can't wait to hear from you. And with that said, we'll catch you guys in the next one.